Welcome to the Slow Living Collective podcast. I'm Amy, wife, mother of two and homemaker. Come along with me as I share my love for simple living, growing in my allotment garden, diving into what it means to be an urban homesteader and embracing life as a mother and homemaker. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Slow Living Collective podcast. Today we are talking about self-care. Oh my goodness, anybody else just get fed up of the term self-care? Because I kind of do. I kind of get fed up with hearing about self-care and just all of the noise around it. But here I am talking about self-care and particularly around the seasons. And I want to talk today about the seasonal shifts around self-care and I guess about how we can take care of ourselves and adjust our routine through the year, and particularly about tailoring what we do to take care of ourselves through autumn, as that's where we're currently at. And I think there is this sort of like ongoing movement about self-care, talking about, like what is self-care, what isn't self-care. If you're a mother, you know that you'll hear that like having a shower isn't self-care and, fulfilling your basic needs isn't self-care. And it's just like shouted at us a lot. Self-care is shouted about a lot. And listen, I don't know how I really feel about any of it, if I'm totally honest, because while I understand the idea that having a shower and fulfilling your basic needs isn't self-care, sometimes it feels really good. Sometimes it feels really great to just be stood in the shower, fulfilling your basic needs of washing yourself, and sometimes it just feels good, and sometimes it feels enough. And I think we need to be less strict about what we identify with as self-care. But today I want to talk about how we take care of ourselves with the changing seasons, and how what looks like for us in one season might not be how it looks in another, and same with the seasons of our lives, right? If you are, the mother of a newborn, taking care of yourself might be a little bit more difficult than it is for me, the parent of a 4 and a 2-year-old, which would look different to somebody who doesn't have children or only has one child or has children that are, 8 and 10. It looks different for all of us, and there isn't this sort of like one blanket idea that this is what we should be doing for self-care. And it's also really personal as well. Like I said, sometimes having a shower feels like self-care. Sometimes getting dressed by myself without people talking to me feels like self-care. Sometimes just having my first coffee of the day in as much silence as I can garner with a 2 and a 4-year-old feels like self-care. But that might not be what self-care feels like for you, and that's fine. But yeah, I think that self-care is just, it's not static. It is not this one size fits all. It evolves with us as individuals. It looks different for us all, and it moves and ebbs and flows with our environment and with the seasons. And the seasons of nature have such a impact on both our physical, emotional and mental well-being, and they can change with things like some people suffer throughout autumn, winter and early spring with seasonal affective disorder, with less sunlight. Everything changes for all of us with less sunlight, and the light of the sun and what it gives us is important. And so we can feel different. We do feel the ebbs and flows. It's why we might feel not so great in the winter, but we feel more vibrant in the summer. But today I want to talk particularly about aligning your whatever self-care looks like for you, but aligning it with autumn. And autumn is so unique as a season, and I always feel like it is this period of transformation, and it has so much attached to it, so much symbolism. It's about letting go, it's about preparing for the dark days ahead, it's about reflecting maybe on how this year has gone so far. And so I feel like autumn is just this brilliant time to think about self-care and what our own self-care routines look like, because it is a time of letting go, and that maybe that's a time where things have happened throughout the year, whether it be in your personal life or your work life or whatever it looks like. There might be things that you are thinking about, it's time to let go of that, or I don't want to do that, I want to release that. You might be reflecting on things that have passed, whether that be habits that you are doing or friendships or relationships, and you're just preparing for the winter ahead. Winter is coming, unfortunately. But it is coming, and autumn is this just massive transformational period where we feel the transitions of nature. I don't think there's any other time in the seasons where it is so noticeable, the changes that go on outside. I feel like when spring comes, the sun comes out and every day of sunshine feels like joy, and obviously the leaves come back on the trees, but I feel like I don't notice that as much as I maybe notice autumn. And in autumn I'm very much noticing the leaves as they're slowly changing colour, and when they drop to the ground, when we inevitably get our first winter storm and all of the leaves go with it, and the crunching of leaves underfoot, I notice more the crisp morning air and all of those things. It just feels like it's more noticeable in the autumn, and maybe that's the reason why, maybe I'm not alone, maybe that's the reason why lots of people particularly feel like they love autumn. But it is a transitional period, just like spring is. I feel like spring and autumn are these transitional months, and winter and summer are more static. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I certainly feel in both spring and autumn that there is a lot of reflection that happens, and letting go and preparing and just getting rid of the things that don't serve us and thinking about what's next. And so there are lots of different ways that we can take care of ourselves through the autumn. So like I said, I feel like our self-care routines, whatever they look like, shouldn't be static, that they should ebb and flow throughout the year. And for autumn, I think there are some adjustments that we can make, particularly in terms of physical stuff. It's really important to take care of our diet at this time of year, and it's always important to eat seasonally as much as possible. This time of year we are moving into more sort of root vegetables and just really nutrient rich foods. There are reasons why eating seasonally is the absolute best, and I have been into it in previous episodes, and I'm sure I will go into it again. But when we eat seasonally, we are eating foods for our locality that are currently in season at the right time, that our bodies that also live in that locality need them. So when we are eating carrots, it's because where we live is providing the right nutrients for our bodies that we need at just the right time. So when we eat here, just north of London, when I eat a banana from St. Lucia, for example, my body wasn't expecting that, because we don't grow bananas just north of London. It's impossible in our climate. And so while, the whole modern world is opened up to being able to eat all sorts from all different places, nutritionally, it's not what's best for our body. Now, listen, I'm not saying don't eat bananas. You get on with your good self and eat what you enjoy. But in terms of eating seasonally, the things that exist in our localities, and I know from looking at my analytics, I've got people listening from all over the world, which kind of blows my mind. So shout out to the 4% of you that listen from Australia, because this episode is probably hitting you at exactly the wrong time. But maybe bookmark it and come back to it. And I hope you're enjoying your spring in the Southern Hemisphere. But back to autumn for the Northern Hemisphere. It's just the ebb and flow, isn't it? You know, and like anybody listening in the Southern Hemisphere, I know you've already been through it. You've just been through your winter, and spring is here, and it's that time of rebirth and renewal for you. So it's just the ebb and flow. It's just the way it goes. And so eating those seasonal nutrient rich foods is what is so important for our health and our well-being. But also as well, in terms of our physical care of ourselves, you know, in terms of exercise, maybe we might transition from outdoor to indoor activities. In fact, this was something my husband and I were talking about recently, about particularly for women, and the way women feel in terms of being outside and being outside alone after dark. When the days get shorter, our days get shorter, and I'm sure a lot of you can understand, what I mean by that. We don't always feel comfortable being outside by ourselves after dark, and so my husband and I were talking about exercising. We both run separately, and I've been running later in the day because it's still been light, but as time moves on, eventually when I get home from my day and he's finished work, it's going to be too dark for me to go and run by myself. I like to run with my headphones in, and I am not doing that after dark. And so it's trying to refactor in, okay, so my life has to change. His doesn't necessarily. In fact, the ironic thing is that he wants to exercise in the morning, and I'm gonna, I want to exercise later in the day, because we need to allow for childcare, and that both of us, can get done what we want to do and take that time for ourselves. But the children also need taking care of too, and so we're gonna have to swap for this period of time. Irony that he can run after dark by himself, but it's just the way of the world. And the most important thing is protecting myself. So in terms of exercise, maybe if you're a woman and you feel the same way, that you wouldn't want to run by yourself in the dark with your headphones in, then and I don't live in a bad area or anything, but it's just my comfort level, and I like to run with my music on really, really loud. I get really jazzed up by that. So it is what it is, and so maybe there's that transition from having to change your routine a little bit, or maybe you don't want to be doing outside activities and you want to do inside activities. But also, in terms of physical self-care for autumn, you might want to think about things for skincare. There are things like, being able to moisturize in the cold weather and things like that as well. If you wear sun protection, I am not a sun protection kind of girl, but I won't wear SPF on my skin unless it's absolutely essential in a heat wave. But if you're the kind of person that wears SPF, then you can factor that in as well. But then also there's the emotional parts of self-care as well, and just reflecting. Like I said, autumn is a massive time for reflection, and reflecting on the accomplishments of the year, the things that have maybe set you back, the things that have been troubling you. If you're anything like me, I've been looking back over the year and thinking like, what just happened? What happened this year? The weather was wild. It was a completely nuts year for me in terms of friendships and just stuff going on in our personal lives. Like, it has been one thing after another. In fact, I was thinking how like this year has been really rough on my health anxiety actually as well. And I had this like flippant thought pass through my head like, oh my God, I've lived this year in fight or flight mode. And it's true. I feel like I've lived the whole year in fight or flight mode. That's not healthy. That is not healthy at all. So just reflecting on the things that have happened in the year can be self-care. If you're able, letting things go, because that is self-care too. So whether it's reviewing the accomplishments you've had, setbacks you've had, difficulties you've had, all of those things. Another thing can be, I said autumn is this period of time about coming inside, just embracing your home comforts. And I love this time of year to create a cozy environment. To me, that is self-care. My salt lamp in my bedroom that I'm staring at while I'm doing this podcast, the flickering of candles, fairy lights, all of those sorts of things. I know loads of people love like decorating for Christmas as well, and that'll obviously be coming up. But I enjoy Christmas decorations for a few weeks, but I love the feeling after Christmas of clearing it all away and just getting my environment back. So yeah, that is big for me, creating this cozy autumn winter environment in my home. And so as well as emotional self-care, we can also take care of our mental health as well. Particularly, I know it can be really difficult, like I said, with things like season affective disorder. Maybe we have to adjust our routines, like I said, to accommodate earlier sunset. So if you want to exercise outside and you don't necessarily feel comfortable doing so after dark, then we have to adjust those routines. Maybe we have to change when we meditate, or change when we're going to sit down and read. And just figuring all that out, and just using autumn as this period for learning. I always find that autumn being so transformative makes me feel like I'm ready to do something new. It was actually last autumn that I really sort of cracked on with finishing up my yoga teacher training, which I qualified for in January of this year. And so I feel like it's a great time to, maybe start a new book, start a new course, learn something new. The coming inside in autumn, picking up new things can be really great for our mental health. And as always, I'm going to recommend mindfulness and meditation because I think they're fab. You can certainly find things that are particularly tailored for autumn reflections. And yeah, just do what feels right for you. There's also like the spiritual aspect, if that's something you connect with. Deepen your connection with nature. You can do things like forest bathing. Walking in autumn is amazing because everything is so beautiful. Walking at sunset and golden hour is always my favourite. You can reflect on the year through like gratitude journaling, and just align with autumn's energy. The energy of autumn is just a time of reflection and of letting go, and you can use that to maybe help you journal, help you meditate, help your gratitude practice, all of that. Just reflection and letting go and just preparing for the months ahead. So I know it's a time that can be complicated because, moving into winter, you can look for things like light therapy, which can particularly benefit people who suffer from season affective disorder. I love to put on some essential oils that help me sort of feel a bit more, uplifted through those cold, darker days. And don't forget the power of music. Music is amazing. I tend only to listen to music when I exercise, because this kind of person that podcasts are my jam. And I will always be listening to a podcast. But there are some amazing autumn inspired playlists. If you have children, I definitely recommend looking on Spotify. There's tons of like autumn playlists, and they're just nice to pop on in the morning when the kids are like having breakfast and playing, and it just feels nice. It just feels nice. And I think it just feels so connected to the season as well. So listen, self-care is so personal. Like I said at the beginning, we hear self-care all the time, nattering in our ears that we're doing it wrong. Self-care is personal. It is yours. Find the things that you love to do, and remember that it can ebb and flow with the seasons, and it should ebb and flow with the seasons. You don't have to set this routine that's rigid and structured and have to follow it. You should follow your own needs, adjust it accordingly, adjust it with the seasons, and do what feels right for you. So I hope that was helpful. I would love to know what you think, so please feel free to reach out to me on social media. You can find me on Instagram at lifeonplot44. You can also find me over on my blog, which is theslowlivingcollective.com. And until next time, have a wonderful autumn, because it is the best season of all. And if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, enjoy your spring. We are desperately trying to get back there, but enjoy autumn, enjoy everything that it has. Get outside, check out those leaves, conkers, acorns, walk in the crisp air, enjoy golden hour sunsets, and just embrace the season as much as you're able to. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you in the next one.